So I wouldn't blame you if you haven't heard of Dragon Age the Veilguard. It's not that great. The recent reviews are at mixed, and there's a reason for that. This game might be the game that actually destroys BioWare as a studio. That's right, Dragon Age the Veilguard was made by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts, or EA, and it's not doing anywhere near as well as either one of them wanted it to, causing BioWare to even have to lay people off, and right now it's looking like BioWare is even less than 100 employees. So what went wrong with this game? There's a lot. It starts off if we look at the player numbers, right? So if you think about this, EA and BioWare really wanted this game to be as successful as Baldur's Gate 3, and well, it wasn't. So if we take a look at the Steam charts, you'll see that the all-time peak for player numbers for this game was 89,418 people playing, and right now there's only 3,000-ish people playing Dragon Age the Veilguard. And then if you take a look at this handy-dandy little chart, you'll see that if we look here, it's all up high, and then every single day it gets a little worse. Pretty much the trend is downwards till now, where it's pretty much nobody playing it. You can excuse a lot of this because it is a single-player game. However, for a single-player AAA game, these numbers are not good. If we take a look at Baldur's Gate 3, a game whose success BioWare was definitely trying to emulate, you can see that Baldur's Gate 3's all-time peak was 875,343 players, which is just about 10 times the number of people who have played Dragon Age the Veilguard. So while it didn't live up to their hopes, it also didn't live up to their conservative expectations. And we know that because EA actually had to issue a statement. Because EA is a publicly traded company, they had to tell people, hey guys, we messed up here. They had to go through and update their shareholders with a revised outlook for the fiscal year ending in March of this year. Basically, there's a lot of finance mumbo jumbo in here, but the important part is, separately, Dragon Age engaged approximately 1.5 million players during the quarter, down nearly 50% from the company's expectations. Now note the wording here. They say 1.5 million players. They don't say 1.5 million purchases. They don't say 1.5 million sales. They say players. And when it comes to this kind of thing, that means something. I don't know what that means exactly, but if it was just sales, if they actually sold 1.5 million copies, I would expect them to say 1.5 million sales. But instead, they just say it engaged approximately 1.5 million players, which tells me, and this is just my interpretation of it, I have no idea what the internal stuff looks like at EA, but it tells me that probably they did not sell 1.5 million copies, which is kind of a problem because you can tell from them saying that it's down nearly 50% from the company's expectation that they were expecting at least 3 million players, or more likely 3 million sales. So that's not very good. Basically, they might as well have called it Dragon Age the Veilguard because it really did not do very well. And part of that's down to the writing. You see, they had a lot of problems with it. So if we take a look at this scene from Dragon Age the Veilguard, I think you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
While Tash is pounding that snake's nose, she's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties, I was so proud.
Oh,
Ah, shit. They're still holding it, sorry.
What are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay.
a barv?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune, from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crew's not good for morale, but there's not always time for big drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a barv. Oh, there we go.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tash's back.
Oh, Tash isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours.
So I think you can tell what I mean there. Now, of course, the entire premise of the scene, the fact that there's a non-binary character, is in and of itself controversial. And if you look at the last election, you can tell that at least half of Americans probably don't align with this kind of worldview very well. But just the way that they approach it isn't even good. Like, if you want to go through and you want to have these weird, like, lecturing moments in your game, maybe just don't, because nobody likes to be lectured. And this is literally them just lecturing you and telling you, hey, if you don't use people's pronouns, the ones that they want, you should do push-ups. Who thought of that? Is this something they do inside the BioWare offices? It's just bizarre. I don't know where this came from. I don't know which writer thought this up. But even if you take away the culture war part of this, you say, oh, you know, let's take away the idea that this woke stuff is something that people don't want in games. If you just look at the writing, it makes no sense. It's bizarre. And I think a lot of people saw this kind of thing and felt that it was really, really weird, and they decided not to play the game because this scene went viral before the game even launched. And this isn't the only scene like this. There's a fair amount of scenes that have this kind of weird lectury, preachy, woke overtone in it. Honestly, I think a lot of people could look past that if it was well written, but it's just not. Because it's not well written, Dragon Age the Veilguard did not do very well, which is very unfortunate for BioWare because, as it turns out, they are laying off staff, including senior Dragon Age and Mass Effect developers. So if we go down here, we'll see Electronic Arts announced a downsizing of BioWare yesterday that saw many employees being moved to other studios within the company, while a core team continues to work on the next Mass Effect. EA declined to comment on whether the restructuring would also result in layoffs, but to absolutely no one's surprise, it has, including some serious veteran talent. Shortly after the restructuring announcement went live, both Karen and Trick Weeks revealed on Blue Sky that they were no longer with the studio. And I think that one of the problems might be that you have people working at the studio who use Blue Sky, because there's a very small subset of people who use Blue Sky, and they're not really the type of person that is in line with modern gaming culture. Putting that aside, they confirmed that they were no longer with the studio. Both are well-known BioWare veterans. Trick served as a writer on the Mass Effect trilogy and Dragon Age Origins, Inquisition, and then the Veilguard, while Karen served as an editor on Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Star Wars The Old Republic. And then there's a few other kind of famous devs that have confirmed that they've been let go. Ryan Cormier, Jennifer Chevery, Daniel Steed, Lena Anderson, Michelle Flam, and Mad B. So they're laying off a lot of people at BioWare, and that has led to BioWare actually falling below 100 staff. As PC Gamer puts it, the studio is a ghost of its former self. They used to have, conservatively, over 400 employees, but now they have less than 100 people left. As it says here, following EA's layoffs and restructuring at BioWare, the studio now has fewer than 100 employees, down from more than 200 during the development of Dragon Age the Veilguard. Meanwhile, at its peak, BioWare consisted of 3 studios and conservatively over 400 employees. Interestingly, Bloomberg sources say that the plan to loan BioWare developers to other EA studios, while the next Mass Effect was in pre-production, was put in place shortly after the Veilguard launched, but before its sales failure came to light. Regardless of the Veilguard's ultimate performance, former BioWare producer Mark Dara's prediction that the studio had become a one game at a time outfit was on the money, and many devs would have had nothing to work on before Mass Effect entered full production. So it seems like they were loaning people out to different studios before they realized that the Veilguard failed. However, this next line is not great news for those developers. Those relocations were made permanent following the news of Veilguard missing its sales targets by 50%, with an additional 20 plus full layoffs on top of that. So what that sounds to me is like they didn't expect these people to be loaned out and then never come back. They wanted them back when they started working on the next Mass Effect, which you'd think they'd want a bigger team on because it's a bigger IP. However, because the Veilguard failed so badly, they just decided to keep those people out of the way. They don't want them back. They do not want them to work on Mass Effect. You can understand it, because when you miss your sales target by half, something has to change. They can't keep all of these people employed because obviously it kind of sucks, you know, people losing their jobs. But if you can't sell games, how are you going to stay afloat? How are you going to make more games? You can't. And if you're a games company, that's a bit of a problem. So it's kind of obvious that they were going to have to lay people off, but I don't think that anyone was expecting them to just straight up cut the studio in half from when they started the Veilguard's development and to a fourth of their highest numbers. Overall, I think it's unfortunate that Dragon Age failed, but I think that there's a lot of obvious lessons that BioWare and EA can learn from it, because I think the entire online discussion based on Dragon Age the Veilguard was kind of run by Asmongold and people like him. His coverage of the game got millions of views. There's a million here, another million here, 765,000 here, 2 million here, another million here, another million here. Asmongold farmed this game until it ran out of juice, and every single one of his videos is negative. This is millions and millions of people getting a negative idea of this game just from Asmongold himself, let alone all the other creators who made videos about it. And in the modern day, most video game media isn't coming from companies like PC Gamer. It's not coming from all of these old guard legacy video game publications. It's coming from YouTubers. And so when they do something that's so unpopular in the modern culture that the popular YouTubers don't like it, like for instance the woke stuff, which Asmongold is very outspoken against the woke stuff. All of the people you see here making negative videos about it, they're outspoken against the woke stuff. And so when you make a game that's in line with all of these woke ideologies that isn't incredibly popular with modern gamers, obviously you're gonna have problems. Really what they need to do when you're making a game, what you need to do is make a game that appeals to gamers. And it appears to me that unfortunately EA and BioWare can't do that anymore. And I do think that maybe just by getting rid of all these people, by loaning them out and, you know, diluting the workforce, that maybe they can bring in new people and have them actually help. They're getting rid of all these people, they're putting them in other places, so maybe now they can fill those roles with people people who know what they're doing and who aren't going to try to push politics in games, but that remains to be seen. So I'd be interested in hearing what you guys think. Do you think that it's a good thing that BioWare and EA are actually feeling the heat from this? Do you think that they'll actually adjust the way that they make games in the future? Or do you think that this is just a symptom of something that they're going to keep doing forever and ever and ever until they run out of money? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Have a great day, and God bless you.